Afternoon. Income and spending are up big as the world kind of opens back up, but job numbers are, of course, the big story here this week. My name is Brandon Steele, financial advisor with Mainsail Financial Group here in Bellevue, and we wanted to create this weekly update just to really bring you some of the market news of the week and kind of weed out all the stuff that doesn't matter, hopefully bring you the stuff that's important. So hopefully this is helpful. If so, please do let us know what we can do to kind of improve or follow us to kind of catch these every single week. And let's kind of jump right into it. So the first thing that I wanted to touch on is a little bit of last week's data. So looking back into last week, we had some pretty big numbers come out. Friday, we had personal income, which came out up 21.1%. Spending was up about 4.3%. And we also had inflation numbers came out. Core inflation was up about 0.4%. So for those who are kind of new to us and our weekly updates, we've been talking about inflation forever and ever and ever. It seems like the numbers are finally starting to show that. Although this number isn't big, it has grown. So it's really, I think, something important to pay attention to. And, for those who are familiar with the prices of lumber and now fuel prices and all these things going on, if you've been to the grocery store at all in the past 6 months, I'm sure you know what I mean by inflation. But the other two pieces of data I thought were really important. Spending and personal income were both up, which I think is, you've probably heard this kind of analogy to the roaring 20s. It's like, I think that, as the world opens back up, that's going to continue to be the kind of trend that we see. Very good to see the income numbers come up. The spending, I don't know, was much of a surprise. I think that will continue to be the case, most likely, hopefully, as the world opens back up. And then if we fast forward into Monday of this week, we also had motor vehicle sales come out, which are kind of an important indicator, I guess, as well. And those came out at 18.5 million. Maybe more importantly, on Monday, we had a couple people speaking on the interest rate environment. So not only did Fed Chair Powell share some comments on what's going on in the world, but Janet Yellen also came out and said something about interest rates needing to be higher. I apologize, I don't have the exact quote, but she basically said that we're going to need to raise rates in order for the economy to kind of keep in check, to keep from overheating. She came back later and said, kind of pulled back on what she said to some degree, but that's the gist of it. And I think it's important to kind of mention because although she doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the Fed, maybe this is the way that they can start to unwind that, where, if somebody else is talking about it, maybe that's how they can start to do it. Again, for those who follow this know that, it's kind of reading between the tea leaves here, and I'm not sure, or reading the tea leaves, I'm not sure that that's the case, but it is something really important to watch because as this economy continues to pick back up and grow, how the Fed unwinds their programs are really going to have an impact on at least the short-term markets anyway. So something to really pay attention to. Yesterday, just Wednesday, we had ADP employment numbers came out. The number was 742,000 jobs. We're expecting about 800, so pretty close, not necessarily where we had hoped, but it's not, it's still a really, really good sign and a big increase versus the numbers last month. So I think overall it's good to see. I think as we look forward to tomorrow, that's going to be the big jobs number to pay attention to. We have non-farm payrolls coming out tomorrow on Friday, and they're expecting a big number. They're expecting somewhere near 1 million jobs added for the month of April. So really pay attention to that number. That will be important to see where we're going with this trend. To tie into that, we also had initial jobless claims come out today, and we had 498,000 was the number. So this is great to see. Now, that number still sounds so massive. I mean, that's a lot of jobs lost, but it is heading in the right direction. It's good to see these numbers kind of continue to drop down. Hopefully that is the trend for a while still, and certainly I think is a sign of the world opening back up, people getting back to work. So hopefully that continues and we get a little closer to where we typically are on that scale. Looking into next week, we've got obviously tomorrow is the big one. We've got non-farm payrolls tomorrow, so really pay attention to that. That number is going to be huge. I think we haven't seen a whole lot on the jobs data this week in terms of the market reaction, probably because we're waiting to see what that looks like tomorrow. And then we also have unemployment rate tomorrow as well. And next week on Wednesday, we have CPI, which is kind of another measure of inflation. So really important stuff to watch here as we jump into next week. So definitely tune in next Thursday at 3 p.m. and we'll catch you up as we get into it. As for the question of the week here this week, I wanted to touch a little bit on scam issues. It seems like this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. I'm sure we've all had those calls of somebody saying that they're with the IRS or the Department of Revenue or whatever it is, and trying to get something from you. So I just wanted to kind of touch real quickly on these scam issues and maybe mention, because we've seen a lot more of them recently, that if anybody is asking you for something without giving you something, obviously be cautious of that. We have somebody that we know very closely who was told that basically with their timeshare, they were eligible for a certain amount of money, but they had to pay for these closing costs and these taxes before they could get those funds. It may seem like that is obvious on the outside looking in. The challenge, of course, is that, when you are in that situation and offered a large sum of money, it can be very easy to let your emotions kind of take hold. So just kind of be cautious if you ever get these types of calls or these emails. I would say just step back, try and approach it from an outside perspective or ask an outside perspective. If there's something that's fishy, it may be good to forward that on to your advisor or whatever the case may be and say, hey, help me out here a little bit. They are not the ones to advise on that, but certainly may be able to help kind of look at it from a third party perspective. So hopefully that's helpful. Be cautious of this. They are going crazy. And I think with tax time is usually a time we see that ramp up even further. So just be very cautious of these scams that are out there. And hopefully that is helpful just to kind of put on your radar here as that picks up. If you do have a question for us for the question of the week, feel free to email us info@mainsailfg.com. And we'll see you next week, same place, Thursday at 3 p.m.